What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel. If you guys are new, welcome. Now today in this video, we're going over another Solar Titan build for y'all. Now I know y'all might be thinking Loyally Splendor, Synthesept, something along those lines, but no, this is the ultimate support right here with the Phoenix Cradle exotic legs. These things allow other Guardians to pass through your Sunspots, which grants Sol Invictus as well as restoration. So absolutely crazy for that support when you're using your Solar subclass, and with the double Firebolt grenades this season, it is absolutely nasty. Plus, we're bringing out a trusty dusty exotic that I'm sure hasn't been seen too often inside of Destiny as of late. Now, starting out right here for our abilities, aspects, and fragments, we are going with Hammer of Soul for the Soul ability. See what I did there? To create those sunspots. This down here inside of our Burning Maul doesn't work nearly as well, since each time we throw a hammer with this build, we're going to create a sunspot as well. Now for your abilities right here, Towering Barricade is personally what I went with. I know a lot of people like Rally Barricade for that reload stability range aspect, and it does come back a little bit faster, but Towering just seemed right to me for that kind of support and more protection. Now I am going with Strafe Lift and our Throwing Hammer. Definitely able to create more sunspots with this, and you're able to cure yourself, so the survivability in raids, master sectors, master strikes, GMs, stuff like that, way better. And for our grenades, like I said, using that Firebolt for the double because of our artifact mod, and this with that Scorch and Ignitions is nice for those unstoppables. When you direct hit with them, they automatically ignite, so very good for that aspect. Plus it pairs well with, you will see, our fragments that we have on this build. Now our first aspect, definitely important for this, is Roaring Flames. Final blows with solar abilities or ignitions increases damage for your solar abilities, stacking up to ×3. Hence why our Throwing Hammer getting defeats is going to stack this up easily. Plus that Firebolt grenade being able to spread Scorch and ignitions very easily allows us to keep this up and procced, and that ×3, we're able to do a nice bit more damage than we are at our base level. Now on top of that, this Sol Invictus, which pairs with those Phoenix Cradles, which we are creating with those Sunspots. Solar ability final blows, those Hammer of Soul impacts, and defeating Scorch targets creates Sunspots. Our abilities regenerate faster, your super drains more slowly while standing in Sunspots. Sunspots also apply Scorch and deal damage to targets. Entering these Sunspots also apply restoration. Hence why you can see why this build is so crazy for that support, and we're wanting to get as many of these on the field as possible for ourselves as well as our allies, since we're using Phoenix Cradles, which gives them restoration and part of this Sol Invictus here. For our fragments here, making this build come full circle, we're using Ember of Ashes so we can apply more Scorch stacks to targets, creating more ignitions, allowing us to proc this Roaring Flames more often, and just the additional stack Scorches is so nice for those ignitions. As you can see, we'll pair it very well with our other fragments down here. Second, with that pairing, is Ember of Char. Your solar ignition spreads Scorch to the affected targets, so we're going to get Ember of Ashes and Ember of Char to proc together, as well as our next one right here. Our Ember of Eruption with those ignitions have increased area, so all three of these pair very well together, especially since our Sunspots are creating Scorch, as well as that double Firebolt grenades that we're going to have. And last but not least right here, Ember of Torches. That powered melee attack against combatants makes us and allies radiant, so we can do that more damage. Plus with that hammer, we're basically always having it up, allowing us to cure ourselves, have radiant up for us and our allies at all time while producing those sunspots. So support is just S tier and absolutely gnarly. Now first, before we go over the weapons, admire that drip. Tell me it ain't looking sick with this shader as well as the armor from this season. Now, for our weapons, we're going with the Submission SMG, one with Subsistence and Demolitionist, so we can continuously mow down enemies with it and get back our grenades super quick. Now, for our energy weapon, we're using Autoloading Frenzy in the Explosive Personality. Very fun weapon to pair for that solar synergy, and it's a waveframe grenade launcher, and I am a sucker for waveframe grenade launchers. Now, the trusty Dusty I was talking about is that Sleeper Stimulant with its catalyst. Absolutely lasers enemies and is very good for the PvE realm and damage. One of the highest damaging weapons right now for that consistency. Now, moving on to our mods right here, we're going to be having that Overload SMG as well as giving us the authorized mods right here to get the cost of armor mods a little bit less for our grenades. I personally am using Shadow Orbs on this as well, so all of those solar breaks are going to give us a lot of those orbs of power, which we are using on our armor mods. And then obviously we're using Flared Up with Rain Bolts, so we have that second Firebolt grenade, plus those Firebolt grenades deal more stacks of Scorch, which we're using to proc everything like I talked about in our abilities, aspects, and fragments, and getting those sunspots to just be everywhere outside in the PvE realm. Now, moving on to our armor mods right here for that ultimate support build in this Phoenix Cradle Sunspots. We have Hands-On, Solar Siphon, and Powerful Friends. Hands-On is going to give us our Hammer of Soul back quicker when we get those melee defeats, also creating sunspots for us. Solar Siphon, our two solar weapons, are going to be able to create orbs of power for us, as well as Powerful Friends, which again makes this even more of a support when we collect an orb of power, giving us that armor charge. Nearby allies also get armor charge by 1, so a way to give them armor charge without them having to do a single thing. Now, on top of that, we are using heavy-handed, so with our Bonk Hammer getting all of those defeats, proccing that Cure, proccing Radiant, as well as those Sunspots, we're going to create Orbs of Power as well. Now, on top of that, we're using Impact Induction, so we're going to get our grenades back very fast. One, by standing in those Sunspots, which helps ability regen, but Impact Induction, so when we get damage with that Bonk Hammer, which we basically have on us at all times, it's going to give us a nice chunk of energy back for our grenade cooldown, so ability spam is everywhere, which means sunspots everywhere as well. Now, moving on to our chest piece right here, we're going to have that solar reserves for our linear fusion as well as our grenade launcher charged up to allow us to have a little bit more stacks of that charge for armor charge, as well as harmonic siphon right here to stop that incoming solar damage a little bit easier. Now, when we move on to these boots, which are so good at that support, like I have been saying, we have Beacons of Empowerment. Sol Invictus lasts twice as long. Allies who pass through sunspots are granted Sol Invictus and Solar Restoration, which is absolutely crazy to me. So this thing is so good for giving our abilities back faster for us and for our allies, and they get restoration. It is so crazy. So those sunspots are very important. Now, for our mods, we're using that recuperation, which gives us a little bit of health when we need it by picking up those orbs of power. Plus, that armor charge, we're going to be using it for solar weapon surge. So our grenade launcher, as well as our sleeper stimulant, do more damage when this is procced, which is basically always, since we're getting those orbs of power on our weapon defeats as well as on our melee defeats. So very good addition for this build for damage, as well as that support of the sunspots. And last but not least, on our class item right here, we're using double bomber, so when we throw down our ability, we're going to get back our grenades just a little bit faster. We basically always have our melee, so that's why I didn't choose outreach. It's just a way for us to get our grenades back a little bit faster, applying that scorch even more of those ignitions, spreading that AoE damage everywhere, sunspots galore. And then last, we're using that time dilation, so our weapons surge for solar lasts just a little bit longer on that armor charge, which just makes this build a chef kiss, like I said, for that solar synergy, support, and sunspots. I hope y'all can see how crazy this build is for creating sunspots for everybody. I even at times will take my hammers, pop them, and just throw them at allies when I'm going through strikes and stuff, and enemies to get those ignitions going on. Plus, when they run through those sunspots, when I throw the hammer at them, they get that restoration to proc. Plus, it might save them from enemies that are on top of them, procking even more sunspots. And it is just that nice little feedback loop of using your melee consistently to create sunspots, which gives us that nice grenade throw over and over again with the double firebolt grenades. So the ability of this to spam our solar abilities, ignitions, and sunspots is so crazy fun. Definitely a slept on build, and it is so supportive in that end game activity. In my personal opinion, sunspots are absolutely crazy, especially when they're giving your fellow allies and guardians that Sol Invictus and restoration. It is so crazy to me that it gives them both of those. So definitely suggest giving this a try out for my mains on Titan, and it is so supportive and very fun, like I said. Plus, it's very effective. So thank you guys again for that crazy support lately. Y'all have been absolutely killing it, blowing me away, and I truly appreciate it. So thank you guys again. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.